Welcome back to Mechanical Eagle Recaps. Today, I'm going to show you an action comedy film from 2022 titled The Way of the House Husband. Spoilers ahead, watch out and enjoy. Our story follows a strong and imposing man, his muscular body adorned with legendary tattoos that tell countless tales of his past. His name is Kuroda Tatsu, a figure deeply respected and feared within the ranks of the Yakuza. He rises to legendary status as a Yakuza boss after single-handedly taking down the powerful families of rival gangs, leaving no one standing in his path. Thanks to his unmatched strength and fearlessness during battles, he earns the infamous title of the Immortal Dragon. But one day, he suddenly feels a deep sense of regret and decides he wants to leave his dark past behind and become a good, responsible husband and father. He now spends his days cleaning the house, cooking meals, and taking care of his family, something completely opposite from the violent life he once lived. Then we're introduced to Tatsu's wife, Miku. Miku is a workaholic. She works in an office and is the main breadwinner of the family. They also have a stepdaughter named Himawari, a teenager who's still in school. Every day, Tatsu prepares packed meals for his wife and daughter before they head out for work or school. After that, he goes around the neighborhood with his friend Akamiya Masaru, collecting contributions from the local residents. Even though his intentions are good, his tough appearance and intimidating vibe make him look more like a loan shark collecting debts. But in reality, the money they gather goes to good causes, like manning the security post, organizing monthly community events, and maintaining the garden in their compound. Still, there are days when Tatsu's face looks extra intense, and his scary expression often freaks out the residents they approach. One day, while making their usual rounds to collect rent, they notice a newly built apartment building. Curious, they decide to try collecting contributions from that place too, so Tatsu and Akamiya go inside. They meet the building owner, Kondo, who turns out to be a Yakuza boss. When Tatsu asks for a 500 yen contribution, Kondo just laughs and tells them to leave. At first, Kondo doesn't recognize Tatsu and is rude to him, but when Tatsu takes off his glasses, Kondo immediately recognizes him and quickly hands over the money, shaking in fear. Once Tatsu leaves, Kondo tells his men about who Tatsu really is. A while back, there was a year-end gathering for the Yakuza bosses in Japan, and that's where Kondo first encounters Tatsu. Kondo tells Tatsu to get out of his way, but he suddenly slips on the floor that Tatsu is fixing and accidentally hits his head. Tatsu scolds him and even challenges him to a fight, which terrifies Kondo, making him realize that Tatsu is no ordinary person. Kondo never expects Tatsu to be residing here, and with thoughts of revenge on his mind, he commands his men to tighten their security. Meanwhile, Akamiya pays a visit to their boss, Iguchi Kikujiro, a local Yakuza leader. He tells Iguchi about the new Yakuza group that's moved into their area. Iguchi has a beautiful wife named Hibari, who is also a member of the Yakuza. However, due to the high cost of living and their struggling economy, the couple is currently working part-time at a convenience store. Iguchi works as the security guard, while Hibari takes on the role of cashier. Since they're so busy with their jobs, they have no choice but to put off dealing with the new Yakuza issue. At home, Tatsu's family is discussing what to do about their pet hamster. They can no longer look after it, but they also don't want to just release it onto the streets. As a result, they decide to offer it for adoption to anyone interested in taking care of the cute hamster. While looking for someone to take care of the hamster, a police officer spots Tatsu and suspects he is carrying a weapon. Tatsu doesn't want the authorities to find out about his cute hamster, so he rushes into Kondo's building to escape. However, Kondo's men mistake Tatsu's intentions, believing he has come to attack their boss, which quickly escalates into a confrontation. Thanks to the agility of our protagonist, he manages to take them all down. He then jumps out of the window to flee from the police who are chasing him. Eventually, Tatsu, who was originally being chased by just 2 police officers, ends up being pursued by the entire police force, all because he is hiding a hamster. It isn't long before Tatsu is cornered, and with no other choice, he pulls the hamster out of his pocket, something the officers mistake for a gun. To avoid further embarrassment, one of the cops volunteers to adopt the hamster himself, which genuinely makes Tatsu happy. Later that night, Miku notices that Tatsu looks exhausted, and as a caring wife, she takes the initiative to cook dinner for them. However, it turns out that Miku has never actually cooked for them before, and the result is a tasteless meal. While eating, they talk about possible vacation spots for the upcoming summer. But being a former Yakuza, Tatsu can't help but worry about all the bad things that could happen, and his mind is filled with nothing but negative thoughts, so he ends up turning down their vacation plans. A little later, Himawari suddenly hears someone shouting in front of their house. Feeling suspicious, she quickly goes to check and finds a young boy who seems to have been left alone. They decide to call the police and help look for the child's parents. When Tatsu goes to the convenience store to buy some diapers, Hibari mistakenly thinks that he and Miku have a baby. Iguchi is both shocked and delighted and suggests that they should celebrate the occasion. That night, they all go to Tatsu's house to congratulate Miku and celebrate the good news. But to avoid any misunderstandings, Tatsu and Miku explain the truth behind the situation. In the end, everyone agrees to take care of the child until his parents are found, and they decide to name him Ryu. With Ryu now around, Tatsu appears noticeably more cheerful and lighthearted, as if the boy's presence has brought a new sense of joy and warmth into his daily life. He even takes the initiative to find a playmate for Ryu, but once again, because of his intimidating appearance, the other parents quickly leave the playground with their kids. Still, Tatsu is determined to give Ryu a happier childhood, something he never had himself due to his own rough upbringing. Later, Tatsu receives a call from an acquaintance, informing him about a commotion caused by Kondo's men. The men are seen at an old school attempting to pressure a teacher into signing a document against their will. Despite her gentle and quiet appearance, the teacher has a powerful voice and fierce words when provoked, instantly shutting the thugs down. As soon as Tatsu arrives at the scene, Kondo's men are immediately terrified and decide to leave. The teacher explains Kondo's plan to buy the school building and turn it into a supermarket. After the Yakuza boss's request is turned down, the school begins facing a wave of threats and acts of violence, which eventually pressure many students to withdraw and stop coming altogether. The whole thing is just really upsetting for everyone, and even Tatsu, who's usually unfazed by most things, can't help but feel down about it. A concerned mother approaches him and asks for his help, pleading for Tatsu to use his power to protect the school and put an end to the chaos. Later at home, Miku and Tatsu discuss the situation with the school. After a lengthy conversation, Miku eventually agrees to let Tatsu help, but with one condition: he must solve the problems without resorting to violence. Upon hearing this, Tatsu plans to invite his old friend, Shirakawa Torajiro. He is also a former Yakuza, with a background and experience working as a school security guard. However, being former Yakuza, even their mild discussions still involve flexing their muscles. So instead of having a calm conversation, it feels more like an argument. As they are in the middle of their conversation, a woman named Koharu suddenly shows up nearby, who happens to be Shirakawa's sister. Thinking they are fighting, she intervenes and even tries to strike Tatsu. Koharu quickly falls in love with Tatsu because of his handsome appearance. Meanwhile, back at home, Akamiya and Miku are having a conversation. Akamiya begins expressing negative thoughts and starts suspecting that Ryu looks a lot like Tatsu. He wonders if the child might be the result of an affair Tatsu had with another woman. Miku is taken aback by what he says and in the end, slaps Akamiya out of frustration. The next day, Tatsu and Akamiya toss around several ideas to help promote the school, and in the end, they settle on making a promotional video. Their original intention is to make a simple introductory video, but instead of looking informative, it ends up resembling an action movie trailer. Still, they don't give up and continue handing out flyers on the street to promote the school. However, because of Tatsu's intimidating appearance, they end up looking more like thugs trying to extort people. After seeing the video, Koharu decides to go to the school and apply as a teacher, though in reality, she only does it to get closer to Tatsu. She immediately approaches the school's first student, Ryu. When Akamiya sees how close Ryu and Koharu are, he becomes suspicious and immediately calls Miku to share the information. As a result, Miku starts having negative thoughts about Tatsu and begins to believe that Ryu is the child of Tatsu and Koharu's relationship. Driven by her doubts, Miku decides to go with Ryu the next day to the upcoming sports festival at their school. The next day, another group of Yakuza visits the school. Tatsu quickly becomes alert and prepares himself for a fight. However, unexpectedly, they come to enroll the Yakuza boss's grandson in the school. Since Tatsu is well known by the Yakuza in the area, they decide to entrust him with the care of the boss's grandson. As a result, this child becomes the second student of the school after Ryu. Later that day, Miku, curious about Koharu, goes to the school and finally meets her in person.
なんでお二人はなんか親しい関係なんでしょうか。
なんや急に。
With a bit of attitude, she introduces herself and makes sure to mention that Tatsu is her husband. The sports festival takes place, and since there are only 2 students, some of Tatsu's acquaintances join in the games, including Iguchi, his wife, and other employees from the convenience store. In the end, Miku wins the women's competition. Next, the children participate and play in the race. Although there are only 2 kids, everyone is excited, and the school grounds are filled with joyful laughter and happy faces as they enjoy the competition. Meanwhile, Kondo grows angry upon seeing that the school is still operating without any issues. He decides to pay a visit to the school, accompanied by his men. Although he is sure Tatsu will recognize him, Kondo is deeply disappointed when Tatsu fails to remember him. This causes tension in the atmosphere. Just as Kondo is about to approach Tatsu, Koharu suddenly steps in and punches Kondo in the face. As a result of the incident, they angrily warn of revenge before storming off. As time passes, more and more children enroll in the school. This is a clear sign that the school, which was once on the brink of shutting down, has flourished thanks to the guidance of Tatsu and his team. Tatsu also feels a sense of gratitude and happiness, as his life at the school gives him the warmth of a family he once lost. Seeing the genuine happiness on Tatsu's face, Miku can't help but feel a sense of joy herself. They both feel that the presence of the child they adopted as a member of their family brings many positive changes and happiness into their lives. One morning, still troubled by her doubts, Miku decides to talk to Koharu privately. She still can't shake the thought that Ryu is Tatsu's child with Koharu. However, after Koharu's explanation, Miku finally realizes she is mistaken and feels embarrassed about her assumptions. Things become even more complicated when a truck crashes into the school's fence, followed by a black van that appears out of nowhere and kidnaps Himawari and Ryu. Akamiya tries to protect and save them, but he is quickly knocked down, falling onto the road and losing consciousness. Tatsu and the others immediately run after the van, and a chase ensues. When he sees the gap between the vehicles, Tatsu jumps onto the kidnapper's car to save his 2 children. Even Torajiro joins the chase, eager to help Tatsu. After a lengthy pursuit, they ultimately manage to stop the kidnappers and successfully rescue Himawari and Ryu. Later, Tatsu and the others go to the hospital where Akamiya is being treated. He remains unconscious because of the serious head injuries he sustained. Filled with sorrow, Tatsu starts to suspect that Kondo is the one behind the kidnapping. This suspicion fuels a growing sense of urgency within him, making him feel the need for revenge. Seeing how determined Tatsu is to seek revenge, Torajiro immediately decides to stand by his side without any hesitation. It feels like a flashback to the past with these 2 Yakuza, their fierce bodies covered in tattoos, once again ready to show their strength. When they arrive at Kondo's location, he greets them with his men standing by his side. Torajiro issues a challenge to them, and as a result, an imminent battle is about to unfold. Each group starts getting ready in their own unique ways, each preparing for what is about to come. Good news arrives from Akamiya. he has finally woken up from his coma. Once he is discharged from the hospital, he wastes no time and decides to join Tatsu for the upcoming battle. Here, Tatsu's group can be seen busy selecting weapons, carefully acquiring a large amount of gunpowder from their various contacts. The preparations they are making quickly become the talk of the town, catching the attention of the locals in their community. They begin to wonder just how fierce the battle between the two Yakuza groups will turn out to be. Kondo hears about the extensive preparations being made by Tatsu's group and realizes the scale of what they are getting ready for. Suddenly, the elderly Yakuza boss, who earlier sent his grandson to the school, appears in Kondo's place. He intentionally joins forces with Kondo, aiming to take revenge on Tatsu for their past conflict. Feeling that he now has extra support, Kondo welcomes the help with open arms and is grateful for it. After several days pass, the time for the battle finally arrives. Tatsu says goodbye to Miku, who anxiously hopes for his safe return. Later, Kondo's group, all dressed in black suits, marches toward the battle site. Suddenly, an explosion goes off, shocking everyone. They think it is the sound of gunshots, but it turns out to be the sound of fireworks set off by Tatsu's group. To their surprise, instead of encountering enemy forces on the battlefield, they are greeted by a lively crowd celebrating a festival. It turns out that Tatsu used the gunpowder not for bombs, as they had assumed, but for fireworks prepared for the festival celebration. At the same time, the Yakuza boss who joined forces with Kondo reveals that he is actually an undercover agent, and his true goal is to collect evidence of Kondo's illegal activities so the police can finally bring him in. The police on the scene give the signal to arrest Kondo and his men. Fueled by anger from the betrayal and realizing there is no other option left, Kondo initiates the fight. Although their numbers are small, Tatsu's group succeeds in defeating all of Kondo's men. Tatsu faces off with the enemy Yakuza boss, Kondo, in the final confrontation. However, given that Kondo is up against a legendary Yakuza boss, it is no surprise that he is defeated and tied up along with his men. Tatsu announces to everyone that they have successfully won the battle. For the last time, Kondo reveals the truth, that he is not the one who kidnapped the children. Upon hearing that, the police who arrive at the scene also confirm that Kondo is not the one behind the kidnapping of Tatsu's children. It turns out that the real culprits are the same two men who abducted the children and loaded them into the black van, and they are also the ones who left Ryu in front of Tatsu's house. Initially, they kidnapped the child to ask for a ransom from the parents. However, due to the heavy police presence, they decided to leave Ryu at Tatsu's house, planning to come back for him after a few days. After a lengthy interrogation, the house of the child's parents is finally located. Tatsu and Miku decide to return Ryu. Although it saddens them, they know it's the right thing to do. Miku also takes the time to give several heartfelt messages, expressing her gratitude to Ryu for being a part of their family. Although it is brief, their days become very special ever since Ryu arrives in their lives, and they must remain determined to live fully in the days to come. Thank you so much for staying till the end. If you enjoy this video, please consider leaving a like, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for future uploads.